The small town of Maple Ridge was the kind of place where life moved at a slow, predictable pace. Nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, it had an air of calm that seemed almost untouched by the chaos of the modern world. People knew each other here. Neighbors exchanged warm smiles as they passed on the street, and children laughed freely in the parks without fear. It was a place where time felt like it stood still, where the biggest concern most days was whether the local bakery would sell out of fresh apple pies before you got there. Jason Carter loved living in Maple Ridge. He had grown up here, running through these same streets as a boy, climbing trees and fishing in the nearby creek. Now, years later, he walked those same paths with his wife, Emily, and their 2 kids, Liam and Mia. They were a close family, the kind that spent weekends hiking together or sitting around the dinner table sharing stories about their day. Jason often joked that if he ever left Maple Ridge, he'd probably lose his sense of direction, both literally and figuratively, on this particular afternoon. The Carters were walking home from school. The sun was bright, casting long shadows across the pavement, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of blooming wildflowers. Liam, who was 8, skipped ahead, kicking a pebble along the sidewalk. His younger sister Mia clung to her mother's hand, chattering excitedly about the art project she'd started in class that day. "Dad, look!" Liam called out suddenly, pointing toward the sky. Everyone turned to see what had caught his attention. At first it looked like just another plane, a distant speck moving steadily across the blue expanse. But then something changed. The object began descending rapidly, growing larger with every passing second until it became clear that this was no ordinary aircraft. Its shape was sleek and unfamiliar, glowing faintly as though lit from within. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through the ground beneath their feet. Jason froze, his heart pounding in his chest. "What is that?" he muttered under his breath, shielding his eyes against the glare of the sun. Emily gripped Mia's hand tighter, her expression shifting from curiosity to unease. The object slowed as it approached, hovering silently above the town square. It was enormous, easily dwarfing any building below it. The surface shimmered like liquid metal, reflecting the sunlight in dazzling patterns. People began gathering in the streets, drawn by the spectacle. Some pointed and whispered, while others snapped photos with their phones. For a moment, the entire town seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Then, without warning, a section of the ship opened, revealing a group. A figure stepping out onto a platform that extended from the vessel. They were tall, taller than any human, with slender bodies encased in smooth, silver suits. Their faces were obscured by helmets, but their eyes glowed faintly, giving them an otherworldly appearance. No one spoke. The aliens didn't either, at least not in a way anyone could understand. Instead, they emitted strange tones that resonated in people's minds, creating a sensation that was both unsettling and mesmerizing. It wasn't speech exactly, but more like feelings translated into sound. Fear, awe, confusion, all of it mingled together in a single, indescribable experience. For several tense minutes, the aliens simply stood there, observing. They moved slowly, deliberately, as though studying the humans around them. Children pressed closer to their parents, wide-eyed and unsure whether to be scared or fascinated. Jason instinctively stepped in front of his family, placing himself between them and the visitors. His mind raced with questions. Who were these beings? What did they want? Were they dangerous? Then came the moment that would change everything. 2 Young boys, Liam and his friend Noah, had been standing near the edge of the crowd, giggling nervously as they debated whether the aliens were real or some kind of elaborate prank. Without realizing how close they were getting, they wandered toward the alien craft, their curiosity overpowering their caution. One of the aliens noticed them immediately. Its head tilted slightly as though assessing the situation. Before anyone could react, it raised one elongated arm and emitted a blinding pulse of energy. The flash was instantaneous, illuminating the entire square in a burst of white light. When the brightness faded, Liam and Noah lay motionless on the ground. Screams erupted from the crowd as people rushed forward to help. Jason sprinted toward his son, his legs pumping furiously despite the knot of panic tightening in his stomach. Emily followed close behind, clutching Mia tightly to her side. "Oh God, oh God," Jason muttered as he dropped to his knees beside Liam. The boy's eyes were closed, his face pale but otherwise unharmed. Nearby, Noah's father did the same, cradling his unconscious son. Tears streamed down Emily's face as she knelt beside Jason, her hands trembling as she checked Liam for injuries. To everyone's relief, both boys began stirring after a few agonizing seconds, groaning softly as they regained consciousness, but the damage had already been done. The aliens didn't linger to explain themselves. Without another word or tone, they re-entered their ship, which ascended into the sky with impossible speed. Within moments, it disappeared entirely, leaving behind only silence and unanswered questions. The townspeople stared upward, their faces etched with shock and anger. How could something like this happen? Why had the aliens attacked innocent children? Word of the incident spread quickly, fueled by social media posts and shaky cell phone videos captured during the confrontation. By evening, news outlets across the country were reporting on the event, dubbing it the Maple Ridge Incident. Parents everywhere watched the footage with growing outrage, imagining their own children in Liam and Noah's place. Protesters took to the streets, holding signs that read, "Protect our kids, and Earth will fight back." In Maple Ridge itself, the mood was somber. Neighbors gathered outside the Carter home, offering support and condolences. Jason sat on the porch with Emily, watching as Mia played quietly in the yard. Despite the warmth of the late afternoon, neither of them felt any comfort. The memory of that blinding pulse haunted them, replaying over and over in their minds. "They hurt our kids," Jason said finally, his voice low but filled with resolve. "We can't let them get away." With this, Emily nodded, her jaw clenched tightly. "They'll pay for what they've done?" "Whatever it takes." As night fell over the town, the stars twinkled faintly in the sky, oblivious to the turmoil brewing below. Somewhere far beyond Earth's atmosphere, the alien ship continued its journey, its occupants unaware of the storm they had unleashed. Meanwhile, back in Maple Ridge, plans were already being made. Humanity had been pushed too far, and the message was clear: you hurt our kids, and we show you why that was a deadly mistake. In Washington, D.C., the news of the Maple Ridge incident reached President Lavra Hayes within hours. She was in the middle of a routine meeting with her advisors when an aide burst into the room, holding a tablet displaying live footage of alien ship and the chaos that followed. The video showed panicked crowds, the unconscious boys lying on the ground, and the glowing figures retreating into their craft. President Hayes's face hardened as she watched. Her calm demeanor gave way to a steely determination. "Get everyone together," she ordered, her voice firm but controlled. "This isn't just a local issue anymore. It's a national crisis." Within an hour, the Situation Room was filled with military leaders, scientists, and government officials. Among them was Commander Ryan Mitchell, a man known for his sharp mind and unshakable composure under pressure. He stood at the front of the room, arms crossed, studying the images projected onto the screen. Beside him sat Dr. Claire Bennett, an astrophysicist who had spent years researching extraterrestrial life. Though soft-spoken, her insights often carried significant weight in discussions about space exploration. President Hayes addressed the group, her tone leaving no room for debate. "We cannot tolerate this kind of aggression against our children. Those aliens hurt two innocent boys, two kids who were simply curious. We need answers, and if necessary, we need to show them that harming humanity will have consequences." The room fell silent for a moment as the gravity of her words sank. Everyone understood what was at stake. This wasn't just about revenge or retaliation. It was about protecting Earth's future. If humanity didn't respond decisively, it could embolden the aliens or worse, encourage other threats from beyond the stars. Commander Mitchell stepped forward, breaking the silence. "Madam President, I recommend deploying the Eclipse. It's our most advanced exploration cruiser, equipped with state-of-the-art technology. We can locate the alien fleet, assess their intentions, and, if needed, defend ourselves." Dr. Bennett nodded in agreement. If we're going to confront them, we should also try to communicate. Violence might not be the answer here. There could be a misunderstanding, a cultural difference we don't fully understand yet. President Hayes considered both points carefully. Finally, she gave her approval. Prepare the eclipse. But remember, communication comes first. Let's avoid escalating this unless absolutely necessary. As the meeting adjourned, teams sprang into action. Engineers worked around the clock to ensure the eclipse was ready for launch. Pilots ran simulations, rehearsing every possible scenario they might encounter in space. Meanwhile, Dr. Bennett pored over data collected during the Maple Ridge incident, searching for clues about the aliens' language, technology, and motives. Back in Maple Ridge, life had become surreal. Reporters swarmed the town, setting up cameras and microphones outside the Carter home. Jason and Emily tried to shield Liam and Mia from the attention, but it was impossible to escape entirely. Neighbors stopped by constantly, offering food, prayers, and promises of support. While grateful for the kindness, Jason couldn't shake the anger bubbling inside him. "They're treating us like victims," he told Emily one evening as they sat on the couch after putting the kids to bed. "But we're not helpless. People need to see that we're willing to fight back," Emily sighed, rubbing her temples. "I know. But how? We're just regular people. What can we do?" Jason leaned forward, his eyes blazing with intensity. "We speak up, we tell our story. If enough people hear it, maybe someone powerful will listen. Maybe they'll realize we can't let this slide." The next morning, Jason called a local journalist he trusted. Together, he and Emily gave an interview, recounting the events of that fateful day in vivid detail. They spoke about the fear, the confusion, and the sheer helplessness they felt, watching their son collapse. By the time the segment aired, millions of viewers across the country had tuned in. Social media exploded with reactions, hashtags like #ProtectOurKids trending worldwide. Protests erupted in cities everywhere. Parents marched with their children, carrying signs that read, "No more fear," and "Earth stands united." School children sent letters to the White House, urging leaders to take action. Even celebrities joined the movement, using their platforms to demand justice. The message was clear: humanity would not stand idly by while its youngest members were threatened. At the same time, the scientific community scrambled to make sense of the alien technology. Dr. Bennett collaborated with experts from NASA and private research firms, analyzing fragments of energy readings left behind by the alien ship. They discovered that the pulse emitted during the attack wasn't designed to kill, it seemed intended to disable or immobilize. This revelation sparked debate among policymakers. Was the incident truly an act of aggression, or had the aliens misjudged human behavior? Despite these questions, preparations for the mission continued. Commander Mitchell selected a crew of 25, including skilled pilots, engineers, and security personnel. One key member was Lucas Grant, a daring young pilot with a reputation for pulling off impossible maneuvers. Another was Dr. Elena Torres, a linguist specializing in nonverbal communication, who hoped to decipher the aliens' strange tones. On the day of the launch, crowds gathered at the spaceport to watch the eclipse lift off. The sleek vessel gleamed under the bright sun, its surface polished to perfection. As the countdown began, tension hung thick in the air. Families held hands, soldiers stood at attention, and reporters narrated the event live for audiences around the globe. When the engines roared to life and the ship ascended into the sky, cheers erupted from the crowd below. Inside the eclipse, the mood was more subdued. Each crew member knew the risks involved. They were venturing into the unknown, facing a species they barely understood. Yet there was also a sense of purpose, a shared belief that they represented all of humanity. Commander Mitchell addressed the team before entering hyperspace. "Remember why we're here," he said, his voice steady. "We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every child on Earth, for the future of our planet. Whatever happens out there, we stick together, we stay strong." As the eclipse disappeared into the vastness of space, the world waited anxiously for news. Back in Maple Ridge, Jason and Emily watched the launch on television, their hearts heavy with hope and fear. Liam and Mia sat beside them, wide-eyed and curious. For now, all anyone could do was wait and pray that the mission would succeed, far away. Near the edge of the solar system, the alien fleet drifted silently through the void. Their ships glowed faintly, like ghostly apparitions against the backdrop of stars. Inside, the beings monitored transmissions from Earth, observing the protests, the speeches, and the growing resolve of humanity. Some among them wondered if they had made a mistake. Others remained convinced that humans were too reckless to trust. The stage was set. Two civilizations, vastly different yet equally determined, were on a collision course. What began as a single incident in a quiet town had spiraled into something far greater, a test of strength, intelligence, and willpower. And as the eclipse closed in on the alien fleet, neither side knew exactly what awaited them. All they knew was that the outcome would shape the destiny of both their worlds. The journey through space aboard the Eclipse was unlike anything most of the crew had ever experienced. The ship's advanced engines hummed softly, propelling them faster than any human-made vessel before it. Outside the windows, stars streaked past like tiny pinpricks of light, blurring into streaks as the ship traveled at incredible speeds. For days, the team worked tirelessly, monitoring instruments, analyzing data, and preparing for whatever lay ahead. Commander Ryan Mitchell spent much of his time in the control room, studying maps of the solar system and calculating the best approach to locate the alien fleet. He was a man of few words but immense focus, his sharp eyes scanning every detail on the screens in front of him. Dr. Claire Bennett sat nearby, poring over readings from the ship's sensors. She had been working nonstop since they launched, trying to piece together clues about the aliens' movements and technology. "We're getting close," she announced one evening, her voice tinged with both excitement and apprehension. "Their energy signatures are faint, but consistent. They're out there." Lucas Grant, the pilot, leaned back in his chair, stretching his arms above his head. "Good thing we've got you, Doc. Without your brain, we'd probably be flying blind." Dr. Bennett smiled faintly but didn't respond. Her mind was racing with possibilities. What would the aliens do when they saw the eclipse? Would they attack? Or would they try to communicate again? She couldn't shake the feeling that this mission was far more dangerous than anyone realized. After nearly 2 weeks of travel, the crew finally detected the alien fleet. It loomed in the distance, a cluster of massive ships orbiting a barren moon at the edge of the solar system. The sight was breathtaking and terrifying. Each vessel was enormous, easily dwarfing the eclipse. Their surfaces shimmered like liquid metal, reflecting the dim light of distant stars. Even from afar, they exuded an aura of power and mystery. "Okay, people," Commander Mitchell said, his voice calm but commanding. "This is it. Stay sharp. We don't know what we're dealing with yet." Using the ship's stealth systems, the Eclipse approached cautiously, staying just outside the range of the alien sensors. From this vantage point, the crew could observe the fleet without being detected, at least for now. Dr. Bennett studied the ships through the monitors, taking note of their design and movement patterns. They seemed almost alive, pulsating faintly as though breathing. "They're not just machines," she murmured, half to herself. "There's something organic about them." "What does that mean?" Lucas asked, leaning closer to get a better. "Look, it means—" "I'm not sure," Dr. Bennett admitted. "But it might explain why they reacted so strongly to Liam and Noah. If they see themselves as part of a living system, maybe they interpret our actions differently." Commander Mitchell nodded thoughtfully. "That could work in our favor or against us. Either way, we need to make contact." With that, the crew prepared to send a message, using frequencies based on the tones emitted during the Maple Ridge incident. Dr. Bennett crafted a simple greeting: "We come in peace. We seek understanding." She hoped the aliens would recognize the effort and respond accordingly. But as the signal transmitted into the void, there was no immediate reply. Minutes passed, then hours. The tension aboard the Eclipse grew palpable. Everyone waited anxiously, wondering if the aliens had received the message or if they even cared. Then, without warning, the lead alien ship began moving. It rotated slowly, its surface rippling like water, until it faced the eclipse. A bright beam of light shot out, forcing Lucas to maneuver the ship sharply to avoid being hit. "They know we're here," Commander Mitchell said grimly. "Time to show them we're serious." The plan was risky but necessary. Using drones, equipped with EMP burst electromagnetic pulses designed to disable electronic systems, the crew targeted several smaller alien ships surrounding the main vessel. The drones deployed silently, their presence masked by the Eclipse's stealth technology. When they activated, the effect was instantaneous. Several alien ships went dark, their glowing surfaces dimming as their systems shut down. Inside the eclipse, cheers erupted briefly before Commander Mitchell silenced them with a raised hand. "Don't celebrate yet. This isn't over." As expected, the remaining alien ships responded quickly. They formed a tight formation around the disabled vessels, their movements precise and coordinated. Energy beams lashed out, narrowly missing the eclipse as Lucas skillfully evaded them. Despite the chaos, the crew remained focused, each person performing their role with precision. Dr. Bennett seized the opportunity to propose a bold move. "We need to board one of those ships," she said firmly. "If we can establish direct contact, maybe we can prevent further conflict." Commander Mitchell hesitated, weighing the risks. Boarding an alien ship was dangerous, especially under these circumstances. But he knew she was right. They needed answers, and fast. "All right," he said finally. "Grant, prep the shuttle. Bennett, Torres, and a security team will go with you. Be careful." The group boarded the shuttle and flew toward one of the disabled ships. As they approached, the sheer scale of the alien craft became overwhelming. Its surface shifted and changed, forming an opening that allowed the shuttle to enter. Inside, the environment was unlike anything they had ever seen. The walls pulsed faintly, emitting a soft glow that illuminated the strange, organic structures. Lining the corridors, "This place feels alive," Dr. Elena Torres whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "Like we're walking inside some kind of creature." The team moved cautiously, their weapons drawn but not raised. They encountered no resistance at first, only eerie silence broken by the occasional hum of machinery or something else entirely. Then around a corner they came face to face with the aliens. There were 3 of them, standing tall and still, their glowing eyes fixed on the intruders. Their suits gleamed in the dim light, making them appear almost ethereal. For a moment, neither side moved. Then one of the aliens stepped forward. Raising a hand in what might have been a gesture of caution or warning, Dr. Bennett took a deep breath and stepped forward as well. She held up her hands to show she meant no harm, then pointed to herself, and said, "Human." She repeated the word slowly, hoping they would understand. To everyone's surprise, the alien tilted its head and mimicked the sound, though distorted and low-pitched. Encouraged, Dr. Bennett continued, using gestures and tone to convey basic ideas: peace, communication, children. She showed images on a tablet depicting Earth, families, and the protests sparked by the Maple Ridge incident. The aliens watched intently, their expressions unreadable behind their helmets. After several tense minutes, one of them extended a slender arm and touched the tablet. A series of symbols appeared on its surface, glowing faintly. Dr. Torres gasped. "They're responding." Working quickly, the team analyzed the symbols, identifying patterns that suggested meaning. Though rudimentary, it was enough to establish a fragile line of communication. Through trial and error, they began exchanging information. The aliens conveyed their perspective that humans were reckless, destructive beings who posed a threat to the balance of the universe. In turn, the humans explained that harming children was unacceptable, emphasizing how deeply humanity valued its young. The breakthrough came when Dr. Bennett played recordings of global protests and speeches from world leaders. The aliens observed silently, their glowing eyes flickering as though processing the emotions behind the messages. Finally, one of them emitted a series of tones that resonated deeply within the minds of the humans. It wasn't speech, exactly, but it carried a clear sentiment, acknowledgement. "They understand," Dr. Bennett said, her voice filled with relief. They see now that we care about our children, and that hurting them was a mistake. But the conversation wasn't over. The aliens made it clear that while they would withdraw from Earth, they expected humanity to change its ways. Deforestation, pollution, and nuclear testing, all of it threatened the delicate web of life they believed connected all species. It was a warning, delivered not with hostility but with gravity. Commander Mitchell listened to the report via communicator, his expression thoughtful. "Understood," he replied. "We'll deliver your message. But remember this, if you ever harm our children again, there will be consequences." With that, the team returned to the Eclipse, leaving the alien ship behind. As they prepared to depart, the alien fleet began moving away, disappearing into the depths of space. For now, the immediate threat had passed, but the encounter left a lasting impression on everyone involved. Back aboard the Eclipse, the crew reflected on what they had learned. Humanity had faced an unprecedented challenge and risen to meet it not with blind aggression, but with courage and determination. Still, the experience served as a reminder. Earth's future depended on its ability to adapt, to grow, and to protect what mattered most. As the Eclipse turned toward home, the vastness of space stretched endlessly before them. The journey ahead would not be easy, but for the first time in days, hope outweighed fear. Whatever challenges lay in store, humanity was ready to face them together. The return journey to Earth aboard the Eclipse was quiet but filled with reflection. The crew had accomplished something extraordinary. They had faced an alien fleet, disabled part of it, and managed to establish communication without escalating into full-scale war. Yet despite their success, no one felt like celebrating. The weight of what they had experienced lingered in the air, a mix of relief, pride, and unease. Commander Ryan Mitchell spent most of his time in the control room, reviewing the data collected. During their encounter, he replayed recordings of the aliens' tones, studying the subtle shifts in pitch and rhythm that seemed to carry meaning. Though Dr. Claire Bennett and Dr. Elena Torres had made progress deciphering some of the symbols, much of the aliens' language remained a mystery. Still, Mitchell couldn't shake the feeling that understanding them fully would take years if not decades. Dr. Bennett, on the other hand, was consumed by thoughts of the aliens' warning. Their message about humanity's destructive habits wasn't new. Scientists and activists had been sounding the alarm for years. But hearing it from an extraterrestrial species added a fresh urgency. It wasn't just about saving Earth for future generations anymore. It was about proving to the universe that humans could coexist responsibly with the cosmos. Lucas Grant, the pilot, tried to lighten the mood whenever he could. "Hey, at least we didn't get blown up," he joked one evening as the crew gathered for dinner. "That's a win in my book." No one laughed, but a few smiles broke through the tension. Even Mitchell cracked a grin before returning to his meal. They all knew how close they'd come to disaster. If the EMP drones hadn't worked, or if the aliens had chosen to retaliate more aggressively, none of them might have made it back alive. As the Eclipse approached Earth's orbit, news of their successful mission spread quickly. Governments around the world issued statements praising the crew's bravery and emphasizing the importance of unity moving forward. Social media buzzed with hashtags like #EarthUnited and #FutureForOurKids, while protests continued in cities worldwide. Parents marched alongside their children, holding signs that read, "We protect what we love, and change starts now." Humanity seemed determined to prove that it could rise to the challenge posed by the aliens. When the Eclipse touched down at the spaceport, crowds erupted into cheers. Thousands of people had gathered to welcome the crew home, waving flags and chanting slogans. Reporters jostled for position, eager to capture every detail of the moment. Among the spectators were Jason and Emily Carter, along with Liam and Mia. They stood near the front of the crowd, their faces glowing with gratitude and admiration. As the crew disembarked, Commander Mitchell stepped forward to address the throng. His voice echoed over the loudspeakers, calm but firm. "This mission wasn't just about us, it was about all of you. About showing the universe that we value our children, our planet, and our future. The aliens may have seen us as reckless, but we showed them that we're also resilient. We're capable of change. The crowd roared its approval, but Mitchell held up a hand to silence them. However, this isn't the end. The aliens gave us a warning, one we can't ignore. If we want to secure a better future, we need to act now. Together, his words resonated deeply with those who heard them. For Jason and Emily, standing there with their kids, it felt like a call to action. Over the past weeks, they had channeled their anger and fear into advocacy, speaking out about the incident and urging others to join the movement for change. Seeing the Eclipse crew return safely only strengthened their resolve. Later that evening, President Lavra Hayes addressed the nation from the White House, flanked by members of her cabinet and representatives from the Eclipse team. She spoke directly to the camera, her tone measured but passionate. "Today marks a turning point for humanity," she began. "We faced an unknown threat and emerged stronger not through violence, but through courage, intelligence, and cooperation. The aliens have withdrawn, but their message is clear: we must do better. For ourselves, for our children, and for the planet we call home." She went on to outline initiatives aimed at addressing environmental concerns, reducing pollution, and promoting sustainable practices. Schools across the country announced plans to incorporate lessons on tolerance, responsibility, and global citizenship into their curriculums. Corporations pledged to adopt greener policies inspired by the protests and public pressure. Even skeptics who had dismissed the movement as fleeting found themselves swept up in the wave of optimism. In Maple Ridge, life slowly returned to normal, or at least as normal as it could be after such an event. Neighbors came together to plant trees in the park where Liam and Noah had been hurt, turning the site into a memorial garden dedicated to peace and unity. Jason and Emily organized community meetings to discuss ways they could make their town more environmentally friendly. Kids joined in too, organizing cleanup drives and art projects focused on protecting the earth. For Liam and Mia, the experience left a lasting impression. They often asked their parents questions about the aliens and why they had acted the way they did. Jason and Emily answered as honestly as they could, using simple terms to explain the complexity of the situation. "Sometimes people or beings don't understand each other," Emily told them one night. "But when we talk and listen, we can find common ground." Liam nodded thoughtfully. "So they weren't bad guys? Just different?" "Exactly," Jason replied. "Different doesn't mean dangerous. And even if someone makes a mistake, we can still work things out as long as we care enough to try." Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., discussions continued about humanity's place in the universe. Scientists debated whether the aliens would return and what steps should be taken to prepare for another encounter. Some argued for increased investment in space exploration and defense technology, while others pushed for diplomatic efforts to foster peaceful relations with extraterrestrial species. Dr. Bennett remained at the forefront of these conversations, advocating for a balanced approach. "We can't afford to ignore the possibility of future contact," she said during a televised interview. "But we also can't let fear dictate our actions. Understanding is key. That's how we build bridges, not walls." Her words struck a chord with many, reinforcing the idea that humanity's greatest strength lay in its ability to adapt and learn. Slowly but surely, changes began taking root. Renewable energy projects expanded, conservation efforts gained momentum, and international collaborations flourished. The incident had awakened something in people, a realization that the choices they made today would shape the world their children inherited tomorrow. Far beyond Earth's atmosphere, the alien fleet observed quietly from the edges of the solar system. They had retreated, true to their promise, but they kept watch. Their glowing eyes scanned the blue-green planet below, noting the shifts in behavior and policy. While they remained cautious, there was a flicker of curiosity, a glimmer of hope that perhaps humanity wasn't beyond redemption. Back on Earth, life moved forward. The scars of the Maple Ridge incident would never fully fade, but they served as a reminder of what had been learned. Humanity had stared into the void and found the strength to stand tall. It was a lesson that would echo for generations to come. Hurting Earth's children meant crossing a line that could never be forgiven. and that protecting them was worth any sacrifice. As the sun set over Maple Ridge, casting golden light across the newly planted trees in the memorial garden, Jason and Emily watched their kids play together. Laughter rang out, pure and joyful, filling the air with warmth. For the first time in weeks, they allowed themselves to feel a sense of peace. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but they were ready to face it together. Months passed, and life on Earth began to change in small but meaningful ways. The lessons learned from the alien encounter took root, shaping how people thought about their planet and each other. In Maple Ridge, Jason and Emily Carter became local leaders in the movement for sustainability. They organized workshops to teach neighbors about recycling, composting, and reducing waste. Even Liam and Mia joined in, helping plant flowers in the memorial garden and encouraging their friends to take care of the environment. Across the country, similar efforts sprang up. Schools introduced programs focused on science and conservation, showing students how their actions could impact the world. Parents talked to their children about kindness, responsibility, and the importance of protecting the future. The protests that had once filled the streets evolved into community projects aimed at making real, lasting change. In Washington, D.C., President Lavra Hayes kept her promise to prioritize Earth's well-being. New laws were passed to reduce pollution and support renewable energy. Companies that had once resisted change now embraced greener practices, driven by both public pressure and a growing sense of duty. People everywhere began to realize that protecting the planet wasn't just about avoiding conflict with aliens, it was about ensuring a better life for everyone. The crew of the Eclipse remained heroes, but they didn't seek fame or recognition. Commander Ryan Mitchell returned to his work, quietly leading missions to explore space while keeping an eye out for signs of the alien fleet. Dr. Claire Bennett continued her research, determined to deepen humanity's understanding of extraterrestrial life. Lucas Grant flew test missions for new ships, always ready to defend Earth if needed. Though their paths diverged, they stayed connected by the shared experience that had changed them all. As for the aliens, they remained distant observers, watching Earth from afar. Their ships lingered near the edge of the solar system, silent but watchful. Occasionally, scientists detected faint signals, perhaps messages, perhaps warnings, but nothing definitive. Humanity still didn't fully understand them, and maybe it never would. But one thing was clear: the aliens respected strength and resolve, and they seemed willing to give humans a chance to prove themselves. One evening, as Jason stood in the memorial garden with Emily and the kids, he looked up at the stars. "Do you think they're still out there?" he asked softly. Emily followed his gaze, smiling slightly. "Probably. But I don't think we need to be afraid anymore. We showed them who we are and what we're capable of." Liam tugged on his father's sleeve. "Do you think they'll come back?" Jason knelt down to meet his son's eyes. "I don't know, buddy. But if they do, we'll be ready. And we'll keep doing our part to make sure Earth stays safe for you, for Mia, and for everyone." The family stood together under the vast night sky, the stars twinkling like tiny lights of hope. Whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity had faced its first test among the stars and passed. There would be more tests, surely, but for now, the people of Earth could look to the future with confidence. They had proven that even in the face of the unknown, they could unite, adapt, and thrive. And so, life went on, not perfectly, but with purpose. The memory of the alien encounter lingered, not as a source of fear, but as a reminder of what humanity could achieve when it stood together. The message was simple: hurting Earth's children meant crossing a line that could never be forgiven. Protecting them, however, meant unlocking a strength no force in the universe could break.